Palay Bigas Kanin, like any theater or stage production, started out as an idea that culminated on stage. It was a concept nurtured in the imagination and which eventually obtained flesh and blood, as it were, by the labors of the various artists and production people who worked together to make it happen. The trajectory of development is clear. Have an idea. Commit the idea to paper, which is work that should lead to more work, and ultimately go on stage where you create the magic of performance before your audience. Idea is work, though not exactly physical. Going on stage is work as well. Even as for the performers, it becomes invested with glamour. What is most obviously work is what goes in between idea and stage. It is the work that substantiates the idea and that which defines performance. This phase of theater or stage production, rehearsals, is otherwise called practice. It is a very fitting way to describe what the process aims to achieve, as in, practice makes perfect. Should the practice phase be found wanting, you know what's going to turn out in the performance. It cannot be overstated how so much work by so many people over time needs to be integrated into a production to come up with one proud show. Writer Edgar Maranan has aptly described it as a huge collaborative effort reminiscent of the legendary Bayanihan spirit. This is why, before anything else, we cheer the people behind the 4 editions of Palay Bigas Kanin, namely the Tagum City, Baguio, Iloilo City, and the Manila productions of PBK. Everybody succeeded in transforming idea to performance on stage. How the transformation came out to be is what we are taking up next. The Tagum production of PBK in Davao del Norte is a fine example of the spirit of Bayanihan. Not only were all creative efforts integrated, but also all stakeholders in the making of Tagum City as the cultural center of Mindanao were mobilized, including the local government unit, local business people, and the various agencies of the national government in the city. No wonder that the Tagum City PBK was the most lavish and the most attended. At least 3,000 watched the concert in the atrium of the City Hall. About 100 artists participated in the Tagum City PBK, both students and commercial. Directorial and production design were written down. They had a full script, where the others simply had an outline, or perhaps none at all. There was, too, a musical direction, and in fact, choral and rondalia arrangements of the pieces. Creativity was evident as they interpreted the range of songs, from the Pasyon to the Tanaga to the Turkish poetic Ghazal. They explored the Kanyao and the other Filipino rites of passage. They showcased the rondalia and rendered contemporary music and Pinoy rock. For those who watched the Baguio edition of PBK but were unaware of the problems it encountered, the concert was a welcome treat. In fact, it was. Save for the technicals like poor lighting, the audience enjoyed the show. As it started out, however, PBK in Baguio was saddled by problems that cut down effective time for rehearsals. Eventually, the race against time had to be more frantic than what it normally took. 3 local artists group put up the Baguio concert. Graces, dance troupe of the University of Baguio, the theater group Open Space, and the popular Dapayan Iti Cordillera. The three groups dug deep into their creativity and experience, turning a bad beginning into a good ending. We learn here that with creativity and experience, you have a fallback. But what if you are short of this? The answer leads us to another learning. All things being equal, stage productions should never be left to chance. A stage production means pressure enough. To adapt to it could be, well, hazardous to health. As it happened, the initial difficulties brought about more problems. For one, the Baguio PBK had to proceed without a director. The local coordinator had to take on the responsibility. On performance night, a stage manager from the outside had to call the show. The difficult context of the Baguio production explains why there was a preponderance of dance in the show's repertoire, dance being second nature to the local artists, which is not saying that it was bad, only that it could have been much more integrated and framed by the original PBK concept. PBK in Iloilo seemed to have generated a lot less pressure. It was in fact an experience that spawned cooperation and encouraged exploration about form. The musicians dared in their use and fusion of music forms. The dancers donned impressive costumes and headdresses, black veils, scarecrow hats, and human heads. It also helped that the participants were members of groups with a tradition in the Hiligaynon performance arts. The artists of the University of San Agustin managed the Iloilo concert. They included students from the Conservatory of Music, Kawilihan Dance Troupe, Bahaghari Band, Maharlika Bahandi, and the UP Teatro Amakan Band. The choices were a wide range: classical music, folk music, composo, reggae. PBK Iloilo had to address the schedule problem. Since it was February Arts Month, every group was occupied with its own artistic undertaking. Happily, with 2 weeks remaining before showtime, pieces of the puzzle, performers, repertoire, dates, and venue finally fell in their proper places. The mall as venue was not a bad idea. The only disadvantage was the fountain that covered the performing space. But in the light of the dictum, "Go where the people are," we could make use of more malls to perform with a keen eye. The Manila edition of PBK could have been helped much by the venue, it being the historic University of Santo Tomas. But it had to be some backdoor peppered by aircon exhausts. Having said so, the USD concert could be cited for many lessons. 1. The cooperation among the Liturdicon Vocal Ensemble, a 20-year-old award-winning choral group, Ustemundo, a 3-year-old ensemble, a trio, and 3 soloists. The rockers were outstanding and most applauded. On the other hand, the groups were engaged in their own artistic activities, even as they rehearsed for PBK. The weak focus could perhaps explain deficiencies in the production design and performance. The performers could also learn a lesson or two on the proper use of the malong. While the production only had a sequence treatment for a script, it had an audiovisual component. Audience participation was attempted. What could be cited too, in particular about the Manila concert, was the special effort to bring out the content of the songs. Here's our parting shot. A stage performance best learned on the job, benefits best if we do stage management right. That phase called practice somehow equalizes the playing field among all of us. The 4 editions of Palay Bigas Kanin tell us as much.
Noon po sa aming bayan ng Palayan, galit kalikasan ay karaniwan lang. Ngayang may bagyo, pagsabog ng bulkan, paglindol, tsunami, pagbaha ng lahat. Noon po sa amin, nang ipinagdiwang ang anibersaryo nitong katipunan, saka-saka kami